You're watching Pyro Media Network.
I could be running or I'm chasing you, but I won't. Cause I got better things to do. Rather spend my precious time chasing somebody who loves me too. If I got $1 for every time you slam the door, I would be the richest girl alive, life. If you hadn't run away every time I asked you stay, you would sleep right next to me tonight. No, you didn't know me, all you wanted was a game to play, and you couldn't handle that I had my ways. I found your matrix and your side chicks, I'm a winner, babe. No, you didn't win this, it's a part of the game. In the beginning you didn't know that you're an enemy.
Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
Hey, y'all. Happy Friday, Junior. This is Dr. Nicole D. Vick of Nicole D. Vick Live. So happy to have you here. We're doing a little bit different today just because. I mean, why not? Why not do it differently? Usually you see my face, and let me just say this. Today you're not seeing my face, but I promise you 100% guarantee it is still cute. Even though you can't see it, I'm still me. I'm still here, and I'm here to bring you important information, important news from a public health, social justice perspective. I am here in South Los Angeles. This is where I live, and I want to make sure you are prepared for stuff. Now, last week, I told y'all that there's been some things that have happened in my life or have happened to people that I know and love that has caused me to do this 2-part series about what happens when stuff happens to you. How do you make sure stuff is not in shambles and things ain't falling by the wayside? So I talked to you about my ankle being broken and what it taught me about, wait a minute, Nicole, is your house ready for you when you are injured or when you start to age? Because I am starting to age. Truth be told, I know y'all don't want to believe this about me, but I'm getting older. It's gray hairs and stuff, like what's going on? So I said, wait, I need to be thinking about these kinds of things because an injury can sideline you. Simply aging can sideline you. You could have a medical emergency where you can no longer speak for yourself and someone needs to figure out what to do with your life. You have stuff that you know about and that you do, but if something happens where you can no longer do it, people, if you don't tell them, they don't know what's going on, right? Who's going to feed your goldfish? Who's going to feed the cat or the dog? Who's going to make sure your rent or mortgage is paid? So I wanted to put these episodes together because I want to make sure that y'all are prepared, right? It is too late when the thing happens. When the thing happens, we behind the 8 ball. You got to be on top of it. You got to be ready. So that's what I wanted to do last week. And this week I said, I'm going to bring somebody in who I know very well that knows all the things financial. I'm so excited to bring him on in just a second. But before I do, I want to talk to y'all about this episode, this YouTube series I've been watching. I want to talk about it really quick, and then I'll bring in on my guest. I was on Threads. Do y'all be on Threads? Threads is like, I guess, the counterpart to Instagram. And people, talk about their lives, share information. So someone had mentioned this YouTube series called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And the host brings on couples and he talks through their finances with them. They typically have a financial issue. Maybe one person makes less than the other, or they don't know how to save, or something's going on. And he's really good at taking them through what their issues are and helping them get to a better space. And one of the really interesting things is that you have to understand people's relationships with money, because if your relationship with money is one way and someone else's is very different, it can cause conflict in your relationship. And I've been watching a couple of the episodes, and like this one woman makes $268,000 a year. She's a dentist, and her partner, who she's planning to marry, makes like $2,000, like $13,000 a year, I think is what they said. But he has a very different issue with money. He said, yeah, she hoards it. And the host was like, talk more about what you mean about hoarding money. It was really strange. It was interesting. So I want y'all to look this up. It's called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And look at these series, and you might find out some things about yourself and your relationship with money. And I think, to me, it's actually really appropriate and relevant that I brought this up today, because we're going to talk a little bit about finances, especially when you're in emergency, or you find yourself injured, or things happen and you can't speak for yourself. So I'm going to bring on my friend, Dr. David Patterson. He is, I call myself a multi-hyphenate. No. This man do all the things, and I'm so happy to know him. I can't even remember how we met. And as I have always told y'all, when you can't remember how you met somebody, that means that person is part of your family. He is, part of my life. I know for a fact, I will say this, he has gotten me out of some financial situations. I'm like, hold on, sir. What had happened was, and he's like, that's all right. We're going to fix it. He does my taxes. He helped me put my living trust together. So very, very knowledgeable about all the things. He has held public office. Like, he does everything. So I said, if I want to have somebody come on here and talk about finances in these types of situations, it would be him. So let's bring him on and let's just get this conversation going.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like we talk all the time, but it never occurred to me to have you come on and talk about this really important topic. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where there was an emergency and you couldn't take care of your own business, and you had to figure out, or somebody had to figure out how to make sure things happened around you. Has that ever happened to you?
Has not happened to me, but it's happened to a lot of people, in my circle.
I mean, I think one of the things that happens for us, especially as Black people, we don't want to talk about money. First of all, we have this thing, right? And then it's like, I think we feel like if we say it, that's going to make it happen. And so we don't want to talk about it. But this is really about not being scared. It's about being safe and protected and keeping things going. Can we talk even about that a little bit? Like, do you even see that where Black people, I don't want to talk about no money? Like, why do we do that?
It's funny. I found that it's more the other thing that is Black people don't want to talk about, like death and, bad things. And so, like, life insurance and estate planning and passing things on to the next generation becomes a tough conversation, because people don't want to think about them dying, or they think that I'm not going to name names. I've had a number of people that I've helped as clients, or just in my circle, get life insurance and start getting paranoid. They think, like, now all of a sudden people are trying to take them out.
Wow.
So it's interesting.
You know what, though? That's so funny that you said that. I don't think I've ever thought that, but I have said to myself, I'm not going to tell nobody how much that policy is, just in case they get ideas. So I have thought that, like, I ain't gonna say nothing because I don't want nobody to get no ideas about me. But what's the biggest misconception you think that people have about preparing for emergencies from a financial standpoint? What do people get wrong, or what do they, what's holding folks back?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's something that they cannot do, that it's kind of beyond them, or it's too hard to do. And so it's much simpler than people realize. But I think the reason why people kind of come to that conclusion is because I think a lot of people are intimidated by money and numbers and finance.
Very true. I know I have, and so let's be real, because you know me really well, and you know some of my business. We ain't gonna talk about too much of my business, but I know that I have this mental block around money. Like for some reason, I don't know if it's a fear. I don't know what it is, but I start to kind of freak out. And for me, to be fair to exactly what you said, avoidance. I rather, if I don't look at it, then I can pretend it doesn't exist. Like I'm just not going to deal with it. And
Well,
then what
money is very
happens?
emotional.
Right. Right. And so then I do the avoidance, and then I can't avoid it no more, because then, well, if the light's gonna get turned off, we can't ignore that, because then if it get turned off, we got to deal with it. So you're right. It's very emotional. And if I remember correctly, you had connected me with a financial planner, and
Mhm.
she told me, when she was trying to help me save, she told me that usually the feelings you have around money are learned as early as age. I think she said 7 or 9. So they
Mm.
happen really early in life, and we hold on to those things. And then if we don't deal with it, we're stuck. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's 100% the case, though. People, have whatever emotional feelings they have about money, and a lot of people are just kind of afraid of it. What is common in the Black community is there's not a lot of conversation about money, especially as when we're young. And so we're not used to talking about money. We're not used to planning our finances. We're not used to analyzing financial opportunities. We're not hearing those conversations from our parents or our loved ones. Usually, the only thing we hear when it comes to money is lack, right? So when things are going good, you don't hear anybody really talk about money. Even if you have the people around you maybe saving and investing and doing all the right things, they don't talk to us about it. But once some kind of financial emergency comes up, then you see everybody's state change, and you see, hear the whispers or complaints or arguments and all that stuff. And I think that kind of programs us to have to be scared of money in a lot of ways.
Wow. All right, so let's talk about it. How can sudden illness or injury cause financial strain? In what ways can, like, okay, let's talk about me with this broken ankle. Boom, ankle broke. Like, how can that really cause a financial strain in a family, or even for someone that's, an individual living alone?
First, I think one of the bigger issues is the norm in our society is to work, 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 work. And there's not a lot of conversation about planning, about preparing, and about just having more of a well-rounded kind of a lifestyle. And when we're just always focused on work, especially in Los Angeles, cost of living is really high. It's really easy to get caught up in the rat race of trying to just afford the lifestyle here and trying to look pretty and present nice and all that stuff. And so our life gets consumed with working and paying bills, and we just don't even have the mental space to kind of get into planning. And if it's not talked about in our circles, we don't really do it. And then what ends up happening is life happens. Like we all know emergencies come up. We all know unforeseen things happen. They always do. Everybody might have different unforeseen things, but they all happen. And one thing that will happen to all of us, we all will age. And so whether it happens when we're young, like a health emergency happens, we break a leg, pregnancy has a larger of a negative impact, on our life than maybe usual, or older, you break a hip, or you know um you need some help around the house, either one, when those things happen, our planning is tested.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then the next thing you know, uh-oh, especially with the work aspect, if you're used to working and working and working and then you can't anymore, now it's like, oh crap, I can't afford to take time off. I remember being really upset about for myself, like, wait, okay, I know I have to get this surgery on my ankle, but that's going to take me out for X number of days to, a couple of weeks. I don't have enough pay time off, so then it became an issue of, wait a minute, do I do this or what do I do? And so sometimes it even causes you to forego certain health, things that could be helpful to you because you're like, shoot, I can't afford to do this. So in some instances, a sudden illness or injury can actually cause you to delay health seeking behaviors because you're like, no, 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 I got to go to work. And it's like, but
Yeah,
baby, your ankle broke. Like, what you got to go get this fixed. So I can even see how that works. We're going to take a commercial break. We're already at commercial break time. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about a little bit about documents. I don't know how deep we can go into that because some of it's legal versus financial. And then like things that you need to be doing so that in case something happens, your money is good and folks ain't got to be trying to figure out how to take care of you when you're out. Okay. So let's go to
absolutely.
break and we'll be back.
Hey, it's Pastor Kim from It's Just Kim Live Show, and you're watching Pyro Media Network.
What's going on, y'all? It's Kwame Speaks from Kwame Speaks Live, and you're watching Pyro Media Network.
We are back talking with Dr. David Patterson about what to do on the financial side when unexpected things happen, how to be prepared. And I in my notes, I have some core documents and things, and I don't know if how deep we can go into all of them, but I will share. And Dr. Patterson, feel free to jump in. Like, for example, I do have a living trust. You thankfully were able to direct me to an agency that helped me kind of put that together where, I can talk about, hey, my properties are in that trust. And if something happens to me, here's a person that's going to be able to kind of take control and do some things. And we'll talk about this also later on too. But I decided for me that the person that I wanted to put in charge was actually not my daughter, who would technically be my right next of kin per se. I actually decided it would be my younger brother because he's a little bit more stable, a little bit more of a, I figured my daughter would probably be too emotional or too upset and wouldn't be able to do that if there was a situation where I couldn't speak for myself. So like, I don't know if you can speak to how important a trust is or, having some sort of documentation about what your wishes are. I don't know if you have any
You bring
thoughts
up a
on
really
that.
good point. My background is as an investment advisor and a financial planner, and this becomes part of the conversation with my clients and planning for all the way to the end of life and and passing assets on from one generation to the next generation. And so part of having a comprehensive financial plan is having like a will of trust, power of attorney, healthcare, power of attorney, all those things. And so it's important that kind of everybody works with usually a legal professional to set those things up. But you bring up a really good point. By doing that, it forces you to do some planning by putting together these documents, right? Your power of attorney, your healthcare power of attorney, which essentially says, if you become incapacitated, who can act on your behalf, right? Who can make decisions, let's say handle your finances for you or make medical decisions on your behalf. And if you don't spell it out in advance, there's a certain normal kind of order of operation of who's next in line to be able to make those decisions. And maybe the person next in line, like a person, you could have a spouse that you're not legally married to, and you may want that person to make important decisions on your behalf if something happens to you. But if you guys aren't legally married, then that decision can go to somebody else in your family, right? Go to your child or another relative. And so putting those documents in place allows you to plan in advance. Hey, if something happened, this is how I want things to go. And so, commend you for moving forward with that and putting those things in place. Like you said, when you're asked those questions, it gives you opportunity really to ask yourself, like, who's best equipped, to kind of make these certain type of decisions.
Absolutely. And it's really important to be thoughtful about it and consider it. Because like I said, my daughter is an adult. She's 28 years old. So it's not like she's not old enough. I just know how she is. I had a car accident once and I was perfectly fine. That child was in shambles, crying. I'm like, she cannot be in charge of that because she's going to be worried and anxious. And so I needed my brother's a Capricorn. He's really good with money. He's very logical, very, he's going to be fine. So I'm like, I'm going to let him handle it. He'll be fine because he's going to ask all the good questions. He's going to be like, wait a minute. So I said, them two can work together. Let him be the one that's kind of making sure it happens and she can kind of be their support. But I said, I ain't putting her child in charge because she's going to be in shambles and we ain't got time. So
the reality of it is everybody should have some of these directives, these healthcare power directives and power of attorney set up in case they're incapacitated to help make these decisions for them. But anybody that has any assets, right, needs to have a will and a trust. And so you can kind of direct where these assets go and kind of create some some fine points on how you want things to be handled.
Absolutely. And I have actually I don't know if this is a silly question, but it's a thought because something is happening. I have a friend and I think I mentioned last week's episode, I didn't go into detail because I don't think it's my story to tell, but I have a friend right now that's hospitalized. He cannot speak for himself. And we're, hoping for the best for him. And we're going to speak it and it's going to be, so be it. Right. But one of the questions came up. I said, okay, so who pays his rent? How do we pay his bills and stuff? Do you know? Because I don't know this. So say I can't speak for myself. How do people get access to my bank account to pay stuff? Like, do you know?
Yeah, that's that's a great question. I can't say I'm an expert on that, but from my understanding, like if you don't have access to, you don't have their login information, to their accounts and stuff like that, and your name is not on that account, or if you don't have a document that gives you authorization to act on that person's behalf, then it's nothing that you can do.
Wow. So that's a conversation and something to think about. Like, call your bank. Like, I bank at a credit union. Call your credit union. Hey, if I can't access it or I can't speak for myself and I need somebody to access my account, what do I need to do? And they probably will be able, to your point, we need this document filled out. We need a notarize something. Even my retirement, I talked to my retirement people and there's a document that I have to have my daughter sign and get notarized because they said otherwise, if something happens to you and you can't speak for yourself, we have to wait for some other type of thing. Yes. And he said that you ain't got time. If you are trying to pay a mortgage or paying something off, we don't have time for that. So if you have this notarized and signed immediately, we can send that money to her immediately. And I was like, wow. So these are more things to think about. Call your bank and ask them. They will tell you. Don't wait, because if you wait until you can't speak for yourself, then what we gonna do? So
Even
call.
worse than that, though, how many of us have all these like different accounts set up that nobody knows exist?
Right.
Right? Whether it be insurance policies or just random bank accounts or an old 401k here or there that nobody knows exist. And so, even if you don't want to say, some people aren't as concerned about what people are going to do when they're not around. But when it comes to you, though, like you want to make sure the people around you can access your assets to help you out. And so you
Right.
need to make sure there's a contingency plan for when something comes up, right? Not just like you may break a leg and you can't move around, but you can't speak.
Yeah. And again, as I said last week, and I just mentioned now, I think in my mind, I had a concept of what that meant to be able to not speak for yourself, but to literally see it in life in real time. I'm seeing someone that I know personally that literally took care of me in my darkest days with this broken ankle. He cannot speak for himself, period. And so to see it is different than just sort of this concept. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Everything came into, and I'm talking to his partner, and I'm like, who's gonna start his car? You got his car keys, you got his house key. Like, how you gonna get in the house? What if he had a pet? Like, all these things was
Mhm.
coming up. And he was like, I have nothing. I don't know. We had to figure out his relatives, the call. So again, I just want everybody to think about all of this stuff, because one minute this man was fine. He was perfectly fine. We had plans to go to the gym together, and the next minute he is out. And it can happen to anybody.
For any reason, right? A car accident, right? Somebody can slip and fall. Of course, somebody may have an ailment that they just don't know about, right? That shows up. And I mean, this conversation obviously is reminding me that to make sure that everything I have is up to date, but not just that, like there's a way to find out all the stuff that I have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I have another friend, one of her elderly relatives, fell. And now
Hmm.
there's a series of health issues. And so to your point again, okay, well, where's all his stuff? And he old school, so all his stuff is like somebody got to go get a money order and go take it down to the man to pay the rent. And it's like, what? So, trying to sort through stuff like that. Folks, please make it easier for the people in your life to help you, because there are people that want to help you, but if they don't know where anything is, it makes it hard. Question for you: so would the suggestion be, to your point, people have life insurance policies, they got bank accounts. I have a bank, I got my main bank, and I got this other bank, and should we type this up and put it somewhere? Because then I'm worried, what if somebody gets it and hacks it? Like, what would be the best way to kind of say all my bank passwords? Like, how do I make sure my daughter or my brother has it, but it also is safe? Any thoughts on that?
My thoughts. I was thinking about this recently. Is really typing something out, right, that outlines what I have and how to get to it, and have that somewhere, safe at home. Maybe have a copy of it at a safe deposit box. It's a lot of different options though, but have a physical hard copy of like, hey,
Mm,
these are my passwords. These are all the accounts that I have. So at least they know where to go look. So like all my bunch of information is on my phone, but something happens to me, you can't get access to my phone.
yep. Yep.
It's right. And then I
Yep.
have all these apps. You don't know what I have, who I have accounts with, and all that stuff. So putting together a hard piece of paper. So these are all my accounts, and these are my important passwords, and have it somewhere where people can find.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Because that came up too. I was like, hey, and he was like, I can't get into his phone. I can't get into his phone to do anything. Like, I think he was able to answer the phone because I called. That's how I found out my friend was in the hospital. I was like, why? I can't hear from my
Mhm.
friend. And he was like, I was able to answer the phone, but to like get all up in the phone and be all in, nope, no way to do it, because he don't have no password. He don't have nothing. So, okay. So a
And it's
hard
easy,
copy.
like, to think this is not going to happen to us, or
Right.
you don't want to talk about it because you think it's going to bring about something bad to happen to you. But all of us have a story of somebody in their circle, went through this, where it was is one of their family members or a family member of your own, something happened to them and there was just a lot of chaos. All of us have a story about somebody passing on and their affairs weren't in order, and the family had a lot of, there was a lot of drama that showed up as a result. One of the things that creates a lot of drama I found in families is money.
Mm.
Like somebody passes and some money shows up, and there's a lot of interesting things that you see happen. And then at the same time, when somebody gets sick and there's no clear line of who's going to make the decisions, you see also a lot of conflict there. Like we see it all the time, and those things can be avoided.
Yes. Now, I have that story too, the conflict. Like, my grandfather died, and I'm like, wait a minute, it was some shenanigans because my grandfather had two daughters, and one of those daughters is my mom, and the other one
Hmm.
is my aunt. And my aunt, he didn't have a will. And it's like, really? Oh yeah, my bad. Here it is. And it's like, he didn't have a will, and he left me the house, so I'm just gonna move into the house. Wait a minute, but he had two children. He didn't have one child. What's going on? And that
Hmm.
was a big. I won't go into any more detail than that, but that was huge, because
See it happen
it
all the
was,
time.
yeah, yeah. And then when stuff into probate and this and that and the whoop de woo, and it just was a big old mess. So we're almost at time, which is crazy. I feel like every time we do these episodes, it goes by so fast. And I want to thank you for giving us so much great information. Really quick question I want to ask you is about life insurance. I don't know if you have any suggestions about that. I mean, I guess the biggest suggestion is you should have life insurance, number one.
Absolutely. I
But what
mean,
is to
go
say
ahead.
about life insurance?
So, yeah, number one, everybody should have some, 100%. It's a nuanced conversation, so I think everybody should meet with a professional to put together a policy that makes sense for them, because there's a lot of different types of policies that operate in a lot of different ways that do a lot of different things. But I would say this is my personal philosophy. I think everybody should have a couple of policies. You have a term policy and like a permanent policy. Term policy is really inexpensive, but it has like an expiration date. It's going to be 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. Usually you get a term policy during the time of your life where you have the most exposure, the most debt, the most people depending upon your income. So if something happens to you, those needs can be met, house can be paid off, all that stuff, really inexpensive. And you get a permanent policy that's going to last you your entire life. So when you do die, there's money to at least bury you. So that's the very bare minimum. You might want to have a substantial enough permanent policy so that you are setting up the next generation, right? That's a different conversation. But those two things, at the very least, something while you're in your working life, and a nice robust term policy and a permanent policy to take care of burial expenses. But one of the things that happens with a lot of policies nowadays, they add a lot of really cool bells and whistles on them, where you can get something called living benefits, where you can draw down from that policy early if you have a terminal illness, if you have cancer, if you're are incapacitated, right? Where you can't, take care of yourself anymore, right? There's a lot of these different bells and whistles where you can use it if something happens to you while you're alive. So um, everybody needs to get it, because there's somebody that's depending upon your income. There's somebody that's going to need some money to pay some bills for a little bit of time while they're grieving, while they're figuring out their next move, and there's going to be a cost to bury you.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, so life insurance, yes, and I've been seeing this other thing too, long-term care. Like, I guess
Um,
that's insurance. I've been thinking about that too, because a lot of us, we don't want to think about it. To your point, we don't want to think about it, but hey, we might be 85. We can't stay at home. We need somebody to take care of us long term, and that can be really expensive. So I've been even thinking about
really
that.
expensive. The original long-term care plan was you have 15 kids, right? And then one of the girls is going to take care of you when you get old.
Ain't that some shit? That's some shit. I ain't doing it. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? And
That,
I'm not doing it. And honestly, and so here's my thing. I don't want my daughter to do that for me. I want her to live her life. I don't want her to be like, well, I gotta go in there, take care of mama and change her diaper. No, no, no. So, but you gotta plan for that, because that stuff is expensive. Those what do you call them? Those care facilities they put the
Hmm.
seniors in. The things are not cheap. They're
They're
expensive.
really expensive. They're like they can be $30,000 a month. I mean, they can be really expensive.
And so if you ain't ready for it, then like you said, well, somebody gonna have to come over here and help me out. So those are some things to think about. And like I said, I guess let's close out because we had 6:53. I'm like, dang, time is moving too fast. So what are the top 3 actions that folks should be taking financially to prepare for the unexpected, the accident, the incapacitation type thing? What 3 things should folks be thinking about?
I mean, first you want to sit down with a professional always to give you something customized. But the things that you want to make sure you get done, you got to have some life insurance. You right. You want to have the will, the healthcare power of attorney. The financial power of attorney. I think it's a healthcare directive. You want to have like those documents. An attorney will sit down and set those up. And if you have any assets, you want to look into having a trust. But those are top things that somebody want to have in place so that something happens, like it's not a tragedy.
Right, right, right. And I think above all, too, in addition to that, talk to people in your families, talk to someone, at least one person that you care about, and at least let them know what your wishes are. And maybe if you need that help, because sometimes for us it's hard. We already talked about how hard it can be to have these conversations. Maybe see if that person can help nudge you along and to get this stuff taken care of, because you don't want to be a burden to your family. It's hard. My mom took care of her grandparents. It was really hard on her body. It was hard, just
Emotionally.
everything. Yes, it was hard. And so if we can make things easier for our families, I know sometimes for some reason, Black people, we like to make things hard for our next of kin. Like, well, if I had to figure it out, you figure it out. No, 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 no. We don't want to, we're not doing that. We're not doing that no more.
if you
Make
got
things
if you got
easy.
something stashed somewhere, you don't have to give everybody all the details right now, but let them know where to look.
Right. Give them a flashlight, please. Tell them which way to go. To go look in this drawer over here. And that's what I told my daughter. I said, you see this drawer right here? Everything is in here. The living trust, all of it is in this one drawer right here. And I said, if that's all I tell her for now, that's fine. She at least know. Let me go look in here and see what's going on. At least get them started on the right path.
And one thing you'll see a lot of wealthier families, well, they not just have these conversations throughout the course of their life with their children and loved ones, but they start the process of transitioning assets from their name to their children's name while they're alive,
Mm, okay.
right? And start positioning, their children to kind of take over. And, it's a whole different, that's once we built some assets. So everybody has a different path or different financial position. But whether you have a lot of assets or not a lot, get some insurance and get some documents in place that identify who gets to make decisions if you're incapacitated.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here this week with me and talking to me about these really important topics. Now, everybody out there, please take this to heart. Listen to this episode if you need to, but at least commit to doing something. If you don't have life insurance, call somebody and have a conversation about it. Do one thing. Call your bank and ask them, hey, if I can't speak for myself, how do I make sure somebody can get into my account? Do something, one of those things ASAP, just to get the ball rolling, because it's really important. Anything can happen at any time. It could be a broken ankle like me, or it could be, a situation like my friend who, like I said, we gonna speak the best for him as he's in the hospital right now. But it could happen, and we don't never anticipate it, but it can go. So thank you, Dr. Patterson, for joining me.
Thanks for
Um,
having me.
yeah, and we have to have you back for other things because you know a lot of stuff. All right, y'all. So as always, you can find me on my website, www.nicoledvick.com. My book is there. You can find episodes of this podcast there. All the things are there. If you need to reach me and you want to book me for something, you can do that on that website. I have my books, as I mentioned. My first one, Pushing Through, Finding a Light in Every Lesson. My second one, Push Through, 52 Weeks of Light in Tough Times. And the last one, which is an anthology, Triumph in the Trenches. I just found out there's actually 3 editions of that book. So I'm in the first one, but there are 2 additional ones out now, which is so cool. You can find me on social media. I'm picking back up on my LinkedIn, y'all. I'm picking back up on my LinkedIn. I said, we got to get going. And my daughter said, yes, you do. And so I've started back posting. So you'll see me there. I think that's it. Next week we'll have another episode. I'm not sure what we're gonna talk about yet, but we're gonna have another episode. So thank you for joining, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.